Let's bring in now Paul Kuharsky. I am excited. I know a lot of people out there are ready to get back to normalcy, and we are hopefully going to have a fun event on March the 19th in downtown Nashville with the NCAA tournament coming back. Paul, Jonathan Hutton, and Chad Withrow, his show, they are going to debut on March the 15th as a part of the Outkick over-the-top network. Lots of awesome fun coming there. Paul, how much fun are you looking forward to over the years, like 9 years you did local radio, get kind of used to doing live shows? How much are you looking forward to being able to have another live show and just be able to kind of share your opinion and get out and have sort of a normal activity again?
Yeah, can't wait. Miss those guys. Was looking at a logo yesterday.
Yes, I know.
Pretty
it's coming out soon,
about
right?
Being able to roll that out, and every little thing like that—not a little thing, but everything like that energizes us and tells us it's pretty close. And after 6 weeks, 2 weeks doesn't feel very long. So we feel right on the verge of stuff. March Madness, obviously a great time to be out and about. And the venue, obviously, is one of those places with the great big garage doors. So a lot of fresh air in there and a great scene to kind of hang out, but still kind of spread out and not have to worry about anything. So we've broadcast from there before and had a really good time. So looking forward to it.
It's interesting. You and I have overlapped in Vegas. I know you've got buddies you like to get out there, gamble, watch the NCAA tournament. Even if you're not a huge college football fan, Vegas in March is kind of on that bucket list for a lot of guys and girls who are just trying to have fun with sports. We didn't have the NCAA tournament last year. Now in Nashville, we have sports gambling. And kind of jokingly back in the day, people used to refer to Nashville as Nash Vegas. I think it's going to feel a little bit like Las Vegas with all these games going on and everybody being able to pull out their phone, Paul, as you know. And I'm not saying you need to be betting some massive amounts of money.
No.
But just being able to bet on games and, win or lose and have some beers and watch all the games take place, that's going to be pretty awesome because I think there's going to be a certain Vegas-like feel in Nashville now for the first year with the NCAA tournament where you can legally gamble on sports.
I agree, and I love going to Vegas with my buddies, but to be honest, this is my college gang. We don't get together very often, and we'll sit at a blackjack table for like 12 hours without
it's so fun.
Coming up for air.
Yeah.
But you miss the games in a lot of ways, until, somebody else wanders by, a secondary member of our group says, kind of updates, and we'll make big group bets on stuff and kind of talk through. We'll come up for extra oxygen occasionally, but I always kind of say, let's not go for March Madness. We were there one time, for baseball opening day, and we had just as good a time, but we weren't sacrificing the basketball watching. And so,
but don't you agree with me that there's a lot of guys out there that, you may not want to or be able to afford to get onto a jet and travel all the way to Las Vegas. But let's say you live in Illinois, or let's say you live in Mississippi or Georgia or something, North Carolina, easy driving distance. You could drive into Nashville with your buddies, get a hotel room, not super expensive, go out to a bar like the place that we're going to be, open air, weather in Nashville, hopefully, knock on wood, good by late March, not like freezing or anything, and just have some beers and be able to bet on a game and start to get a Vegas-like experience without having to spend all the money to get to Vegas.
Yeah, I think it'll feel a lot like that. Can feel a lot like that. And, you've all got your apps open right next to each other.
That's right.
You don't
can
even
share
have
bets.
to collect money to share a bet. You can all bet the same thing on your phone, and nobody's got to be the treasurer. Which I'm thinking of a specific guy who is generally the money collector and the money distributor in my gang, who would be off the hook for all of that.
Yeah.
With us operating the way that you're talking about, which is great fun. And then, like you're talking about, you're a walk away or a cheap Uber away from getting back to home base for the nap or for the crash at the end of the night. It sounds like a terrific deal.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of fun. So that's on March 19th. You can guarantee yourself a spot because I do think there's going to be a lot of people who want to get out and watch games. Outkick.com/VIP, Outkick.com/VIP. All right, let's go into the big stories in the NFL. And I got to say this right off the top. The NFL is I know it's been a year-round sport for a long time, and I understand there's probably some owners out there that are like, I don't like this free agency. I'm the owner. They're the employee. This wildness with the NFL free agency, I think, is fantastic for the league because you still have a lot of times your baseline players who are under contract and going to be there. But when I can check my phone and at any moment J.J. Watt can have signed with a new team and there are 8 to 10 teams, a lot of people didn't even know that Arizona was in the mix, and that can happen at any point all day long. It's fabulous for the league, I think. How surprised were you by J.J. Watt? And do you agree that what seems to be an increased vitality as it pertains to trades and or free agency is overall good for the NFL brand?
Oh, I think it's good for the NFL brand. This is one of the only times that's like semi-quiet. This and June, or mid-June to mid-July is the real dead month in the NFL with mini camps over and pre-training camp when people like executives and coaches actually go on vacation.
Right.
And right now, when teams are, this would have been the combine, but pre-combine is quiet. Now we get a gift of a national story with somebody like J.J. Watt being cut and free to sign before the new league year starts. And of course, everybody's talking, Green Bay, Tennessee didn't even get that much hype, but they were in the mix. Buffalo, Cleveland, Las Vegas, those were the main names mentioned, right? Yeah. And everybody thinks, well, he's going for a ring. It's got to be a team like that. They're even discounting teams like Tennessee and Las Vegas because they're not close enough, and everybody thinks it's got to be a team that was deep in the playoffs if he really wants a ring. And people are always naive on this. It's always going to be the team with the money. Always. He gets $31 million with $23 million guaranteed. And Arizona's not that far, right? First off, things change dramatically year to year in the NFL. I mean, are the Bucs going to be there next year? Probably. Are the Chiefs? Probably. But somebody emerges every year that's a surprise team. The Cardinals were 8-8. Kyler Murray's an up-and-comer. Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt matched together are ridiculous in terms of the production they've had over their careers sack-wise, so it makes them a more formidable defense. They could lose Hassan Reddick as a free agent, probably will now. But it wouldn't take a hell of a lot for the Cardinals to be a team that's threatening in the NFC playoffs. It's not a preposterous idea for him to think he could go there and help turn them into a, NFC championship contender. It's not outrageous idea in the NFL where teams can get good and go from 8-8 to a title contender. And, what a hell of a storyline. Now, Green Bay already, fans of the Packers are hugely disappointed. Free agency hasn't even started. Other teams in dire need of pass rush help. Tennessee, in particular, fans who maybe were getting excited about that possibility are back to, I tweeted today, or yesterday, got to hope that you don't, hope for no tags, hope for no re-signings. And we've talked about this in weeks past. It's going to be harder to re-sign guys without a solid cap number. And with guys, always, if you're close to free agency and your team doesn't overwhelm you, it's very hard to go see what's offered to you in the free agent market. So all of these pass rushers, unless they get tagged, are going to be very tempted to go see the free agent market. And this is an all-time group of pass rushers getting out into and some teams that are very desperate for pass rush help who never see guys reach market. You always have to draft and develop. It's a rare opportunity to get a guy who's a proven commodity, at least pressure-wise, and some of them with big sack numbers.
It's funny you mention, people say, he's going to go after the ring, and it almost always comes down to the money. One of the best quotes, and I'm paraphrasing here now, and I bet you've heard it too, is Charles Barkley years and years ago said, man, I hear a lot of athletes talk about how, they're going to pray on the decision, and, they're trying to make sure that God agrees with the decision. And Barkley said, it's amazing how often God tells them to take the most money.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
Such a great line. Like, I remember one of the first really big free agents, you may remember it as a fan, I don't think you would have been covering it yet, was Reggie White. And Reggie White embarked on this massive tour where he went all over to visit all these different NFL teams. And I believe he ended up with Green Bay, if I remember correctly. That was the team that signed him. And I know there have been free agents before then in the NFL, but again, Reggie White was one of the first really big tour free agents where everybody's rolling out the red carpet for him. And I remember Reggie White, who I think was also a reverend, saying, I prayed about it. And then Barkley coming out and saying, man, it's amazing. God told Reggie to take the most money too. And there are a lot of guys who say the same thing. I just always think it's interesting because people out there who would change jobs in a drop of a hat for $5,000 extra expect for athletes to take $5 million less to try to win a ring, which is really kind of funny to think about. I know everybody's salaries are different out there, but it typically ends up in a position where most people, and that's the benefit of a capitalistic society, are looking to maximize their earnings as opposed to try to attain some ineffable quality such as a championship.
Yeah.
But
plus the NFL, you got short time.
Even more so.
A whole different ballpark.
Even more
so. You
so.
have a short window to earn your money. The other thing, but fans fall for it time and time again about the win the ring. The other thing they fall for is, he's going to stay and offer some kind of hometown discount.
Yeah, right.
This is such a good situation for him.
Because they like the city that they live in is also a big part of it.
Arthur Smith, the Titans offensive coordinator, is now head coach of the Falcons. You wouldn't believe how much stuff I had on my website. He's not going to just go for any job. He's going to stay if he doesn't find the absolute perfect situation.
Yeah, it is funny.
Yeah, he's going to stay, and he's going to wait for the potential for Derrick Henry to break his leg and for the Titans to win 6 games and for his stock to go down so that he's got an owner he likes better or a roster he likes. But no, you wait your whole life for one of these 32 jobs, and he's going to interview with all 7 teams. And if he gets an offer, you think he's not going to take one because he's going to wait for something better and more perfect next time around? That's not how it works. No.
Yeah, it's funny, and there's also fans who still get upset when, like, a guy sits out of a college, a bowl game, for instance.
Right.
And I always say, look, if you told me tomorrow, Clay, you're going to sign a contract guaranteeing you $50 million to do radio, but over the next 6 months, you could lose your voice. Is there any way that I would do radio over the next 6 months if I knew that there was a legitimate risk that I could lose my ability to speak, but I knew that I was guaranteed
in your
6
case,
months
it
to
would
make
be
$50 million?
very hard for you to shut up. I don't know that you could.
You
might not do radio, but you wouldn't stop talking.
That's certainly the case. But it's always interesting when you translate it into another profession. Like if you're a roofer, and you knew you were going to make $50 million guaranteed, would you be climbing around on a roof, like trying to,
No, but you don't understand, Clay. This guy loves roofing. He loves it.
Yeah, it is funny.
He's got the roof. He's got a roof.
We're talking to Paul Kuharsky. New show debuts March 15th. Big event March 19th. Excited to do it with a live show in downtown Nashville for the NCAA tournament. All right, so the J.J. Watt situation is resolved. What is not resolved is still some of the other quarterback drama that is out there. I'm going to start with Houston because we were just talking about Watt, who used to be with Houston, obviously, and Deshaun Watson. We had John McClain on the show in the second hour. John McClain basically said, hey, it's time for Houston to start entertaining offers. If he's truly going to sit out, you got to move on. Big statement for John McClain to make. Obviously covered the Texans for a long time. Never been, in his mind, a situation like this. He said he thought the 2 most likely trading partners for Deshaun Watson were the Jets and the Dolphins. How would you assess the Deshaun Watson situation? Do you agree that he's likely not to be back? How does this play itself out, and what does it look like going forward?
Yeah, well, McClain, carries as much weight with the team with the pulse of the team he covers as anybody in the country.
Yeah.
When he goes all the way from, this is never going to happen a couple months ago to, it's time for them to start fielding offers, that the seas have seriously changed for Watson to have had a conversation with David Culley and to have basically told the new head coach, it's the report said, he said it's not you and it's not Caserio and it's just not a tenable situation.
Right.
Basically saying it's ownership and the thing is just too far gone. We talked about this last time. I mean, it doesn't make sense for them not to do something before the draft and start recouping, high draft picks, and they can get really high draft picks. They could get their own draft pick back from Miami, which is a little bit of the ridiculous plot line of Draft Day with Kevin Costner. I love Kevin Costner, but that movie is awful.
Do you watch Yellowstone, by the way?
I don't. The Yellowstone did not grab me, and that's a surprise because I love Kevin Costner. But
when you just said that, I'm obsessed with Yellowstone. So, so it didn't, and I cut you off right in the middle of your analysis. But I am surprised by that. If you love Kevin Costner, that you don't like Yellowstone.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe sometimes you try something at the wrong day where you're just not in. But I gave it a couple episodes, and then once I'm out, I'm out.
Yeah, I get it.
So.
I mean, I don't want to invest my when there's several seasons of shows that I still haven't been able to watch. If I don't like a show for the first 2 or 3 episodes, I don't want to dive back in. But so
I think they got to move them. It's just being too stubborn, and but still, there's a lot of time between now and the draft. And so they could milk that out. They could screw with the league if they want, because a lot of teams that are in the market, and Carolina would love to get him. David Tepper there is determined to get a big time quarterback, and the Panthers would probably sacrifice a lot of stuff. And that's the other thing now that Watson has to kind of monitor is, if he wants to kind of control where he goes here, which he can with the no trade clause. You go somewhere like Miami that's got a load of picks, that's probably the healthiest thing because they're still going to have some picks, and you go to a team that still has a chance to build around you. You go to Carolina, they're going to give up everything they've got to get you, and then you're on a crappy team that doesn't have a lot of resources to build around you. So them getting you is great and you feel loved, but then they don't have a lot of resources as a result of getting you in order to build you a good team.
Yeah, it is a super challenge. And then, like I said, I talked about this earlier in the show. To me, this is where a guy like LeBron deserves more credit. Because if you are a businessman, and I know a lot of people out there, athletes in particular, want to think of themselves as brands or businessmen or whatever else, you would never make the decision to go somewhere without the ability, you're requiring the new place that you go to give up so much to get you that I think there's a decent chance Deshaun Watson ends up wherever he does. And it's very similar to what's going on in Houston right now, right? Where they gave up a lot of talent to try to build around him. And now Houston's going to get whatever it is, 2 or 3 picks, maybe a quarterback. And we're going to find Deshaun Watson in the same kind of spot, maybe worse even than where Houston is.
Well, you would trust, I think if you're Deshaun Watson, you're trusting that you're picking the place you're going and you have faith in that coach and GM and administration to still draft well with what they have, develop players, put together sensible game plans, and have a strategy. And he's got no faith that Houston's doing any of that when it's giving away DeAndre Hopkins for a second-round pick and letting, quite frankly, J.J. Watt go when he's getting $23 million guaranteed. You can't tell me you couldn't have gotten something on the trade market for J.J. Watt. If he's worth $23 million guaranteed to somebody, you could have finagled some kind of deal. And they're just doing stupid thing after stupid thing.
All right, so that is the scenario there. What do you think happens going forward with Russell Wilson? Do you buy into the idea that the Seattle Seahawks are truly going to move on from him? If they did, where do you think makes sense for Wilson to go?
I doubt he's going anywhere this year from everything you read and hear. But his biggest complaint is that he gets hit too much, right? Well, Arizona just put Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt
that's right.
together. He's going to get hit a lot by Arizona twice a year, conceivably. Hassan Reddick, a free agent there, probably leaving. The Rams have Aaron Donald. Leonard Floyd is a free agent, maybe leaving, but he's getting hit a lot there just by Aaron Donald. Kansas City, Chris Jones, and Frank Clark. In that division, that's a lot of pass rush talent with J.J. Watt getting added to the mix. So it's understandable he'd complain. And I just think there's this thing in the league. John Snyder's a very good personnel executive, and Pete Carroll's a good coach, but he's super powerful now. Ownership is in the hands of the wife of the owner who died. It's completely hands off. Pete Carroll is kind of directing the franchise now and doesn't really kind of answer to anybody. Florio wrote at PFT this week, which was a good point. And so I just get the feeling sometimes a guy like Russell Wilson takes his case public, which is it a good move? Is it a bad move? I don't know. He's probably raised these issues privately before and not seen enough reaction, so he takes it publicly. And then these guys don't want to conform to what he said. So is it at least in the back of their head if they're choosing between X and Y and it looks like they're following marching orders from their quarterback along the way? Are you disinclined to do that because the guy dressed you down somewhat in public, so to speak? I think maybe that there's some human nature involved there where, am I going to spend I think they don't have a first-round pick because of Jamal Adams, but am I going to spend my top resource on an offensive lineman as opposed to my other big need when the quarterback's kind of calling for it publicly? Maybe I'm a little less inclined, even though it might be the best thing for the team, because he's acting like the GM in public. I don't know. It's not a healthy atmosphere. I love guys being outspoken. I love guys being powerful enough to say what the team needs and everything, but it messes with the power dynamic in a way that you've got to not have a big ego. Pete Carroll's got a big ego. I don't know about John Schneider. I don't know. I haven't seen him operate publicly, but it's a messy scenario that will probably end badly. I don't think it'll end this year.
Outstanding stuff as always, Paul. I can't wait for March 19th. We'll talk to you next week, and next week will be the eve of the week of your return, so I can't wait, man.
Welcome back to America. Glad you made it.
Glad to be back.